All right, welcome back to episode 101. I was going to say 201. Jeez, not that far. 101 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing well. Another baseball game tonight. My son's team won, so now they're in the championship game of like the third tier for their district or league. I don't even know what it is anymore. It's funny that state was last week. State was before your district playoffs, which makes no sense.
Weird.
But that's what we're at. We're in a championship game. It'll be the last game of the year. Probably be next week sometime. Excited.
Cool. Well, we're still up in northern Minnesota on the last day of our family vacation. It has poured all day, Troy. My parents have one of those like rain meters, 2 inches of rain today, which is absolutely crazy. So a little bit of a bummer for the last day, but we went out to dinner, had a very nice dinner, and headed back home tomorrow. And of course, on the way home, my life's over. We're picking up the puppy dog.
Oh, that's right. Have fun with that.
Yeah, I'll be exhausted, I'm sure, by Monday's show. No sleep or anything like that. But yeah, kids are excited. So can't beat that. All right, lot to get to today. So we want to get right into it. But before we get started, just a reminder, if you haven't yet gone to secondstringleather.com and used the code GONGSHOW15 to save 15% on top of the already 55% off of their gear wallets, you need to do this before the clearance event ends because, well, that's a total of 75% off. Beautiful, handcrafted wallets made from NHL goalie equipment. Yeah, what's cooler than carrying around NHL memorabilia in your back pocket all day? Nothing. These wallets are amazing. We've talked a lot about, I have my Vasilevsky wallet. Troy still hasn't picked his, which is weird because everyone else is buying them. I think you're holding out until the next collection is released. But
it's like I got to sit down for like a half hour and dedicate some time to it.
Fair enough. There's still more than 90 wallets left. And remember, these are all basically one-on-one art pieces. So be sure to head to secondstringleather.com, use the code GONGSHOW15, snatch up one of these before they're all gone. And when you do so, remember, send us a picture on social media or email, however you can contact us of the wallet you got, because we love to see those as well. All right. Also, quick reminder that the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. That means that we rely on support of listeners like yourself to help us cover our show expenses, produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and help us to fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hockey card hobby. There's still time. I think 6 spots, you said, Troy, left in our out of 99 support level tier. It's $5 a month. It supports our show via Patreon. You also get access to our Gong Show Discord server where you can chat with us daily and participate in our group there. Really easy to do. In order to support us via Patreon, you can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and search. Well, you go to our website, and then there's a link at the top of the page to become a patron. If you go to the Patreon website at patreon.com, there you can search for Hockey Cards Gongshow and find us that way. There's also a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you might be listening to us on right now. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, there's a link in the description there. And finally, in our Instagram and TikTok profiles, we have a link there as well. Since our last show, we have 2 new patrons that we want to give a special shout out to. Bludder, who I think is from the Czech Republic. Is that our first from the Czech Republic?
Oh, that might be. I think off the top of my head, yes.
That's pretty awesome. And then Tyler Mack. Thank you guys both very, very much from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our show. They're both in Discord, so we're happy to have them there chatting with us as well. All right, Troy, you ready for the game plan, bud?
On today's show, we begin with the NHL's greatest player to wear number 1. Next, we introduce the Gong Show 25 and look at our number 25 through 21. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by each of our 5 biggest hobby pet peeves. Josh, will that be a spicy pet peeves segment?
It could be spicy. I haven't looked at your. Hopefully, I'm not one of your pet peeves because that would make me sad.
No, I kind of glanced at yours. I don't think we had any of the same. Maybe we did. Okay. I don't know.
All right.
And then we end the show by looking at our favorite hockey cards in the weekly PWCC auction and new product releases. All right, Josh, we are on episode 101 and hockey's most famous number 1 per the Hockey Writers, greatest player to wear each number article is Johnny Bauer. If you are watching on YouTube, you see a sweet picture of Johnny Bauer in net making a crazy pad save where when they used to put their pads upright and try to kick the puck out of the air. Again, got the sweet goalie gear. I love it. All right. Johnny Bauer, he's a goalie. He's from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. Bauer began his NHL career with the New York Rangers, who acquired him in a trade with the Cleveland Barons of the AHL. During his career, Bauer played in 552 regular season games over a 15-season NHL playing career. Bauer started his career playing 3 seasons with the New York Rangers and then played his final 12 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is where he was a legend. He's very well known by Toronto fans, and we will get into why that is and a lot of good stuff on Johnny Bauer. So for his awards and accomplishments, he's a Hall of Famer, 4-time Stanley Cup winner, 2-time Vezina winner, 1-time NHL first All-Star team selection. His number 1 is retired by the Toronto Maple Leafs, which when the Maple Leafs retired it was kind of a 2-for-1 special, as the Maple Leafs had another great goalie that wore number 1 named Turk Broda. Therefore, they both share having their number 1 retired. Kind of interesting, kind of cool, I guess, because if everyone remembers, Toronto waited till, I don't know, it was really recently before they started retiring numbers. They were one of those staunch holdouts where we're not retiring numbers, but now they
do. You think they're the only 2 players in the NHL that share a retired number?
Like, it's only 2 I've heard about, but I'm sure there might be another one out there. Hey, at least it's not the Wild retiring number 1 for the fans. I'm going to bring that up as much as I can as the most ridiculous thing ever. All right, Bauer was named to the 100 greatest NHL players list put out by the NHL during the 2017-18 season. He also has a statue of himself on the Maple Leafs Legends Row, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Bauer had a career regular season record of 250 wins, 192 losses, and 90 ties, with a 2.51 goals against average, 0.922 save percentage, and 37 shutouts. Bauer made the playoffs in 10 of his 15 NHL seasons, compiling a stat line of 35 wins, 34 losses, with a 2.47 goals against, 0.924 save percentage, and 5 shutouts in 74 playoff games played. Best regular season of his career was probably his 60-61 season, where Bauer had a regular season stat line of 33 wins, 15 losses, 10 ties, with a 2.5 goals against average, 0.922 save percentage, and 2 shutouts in 58 games played. Here's the deal. We are going to get into a lot about Bauer in the fun/interesting facts section. This guy had a ton. It was amazing reading about him and researching him. But some quick overviews. Bauer was lightning quick on his feet and had incredibly quick hands. He was arguably one of the best stand-up goalies to ever play the game. He was exceptionally good at playing his angles and taking away the net from opposing shooters. Jean Bellevue noted that Bauer was the hardest goalie to deke in the entire league. He would refuse to get deked out or fall for a move. He would play his angles and depth so well that shooters were almost forced down a funnel right to him.
So, Troy, what is a stand-up goaltender? Like,
But like, they don't go down in butterfly. Stand-up goalie is basically every shot would stand up. It's kind of funny that the picture you're seeing, I have them showing kicking out, but stand-up goalies it is what it is. They stood up. They kicked out with their legs while they were standing to make saves. If you ever watch old footage, you'll see it all the time. They stood up a lot more than now, where almost every goalie now, almost on every shot, they go down. All right, also about Johnny Bauer, his work ethic was second to none. He endured himself to his teammates, coaches, and fans. He was a fantastic goalie and put the work in at every practice to become even better. A lot of stories about his competitiveness in practice, and he never took a practice off, which I love hearing. I wish some of my high school players would do that. They mostly do, but sometimes we're like, come on, we got to get going. After his playing career was over, he had various roles with the Maple Leafs, which included being a scout, goalie coach, and an assistant coach. He also made public appearances on behalf of the Maple Leafs for most of his post-playing career. All right, so that's the overview, but now we got to get into the fun, interesting facts, and there's a ton of them, and they're all awesome, and I love it. He was born John William, and I am going to botch this, Kizkan, Kiszkan, as he was part of a Ukrainian, not Hungarian, part of a Ukrainian/Canadian family. Bauer and other sources told various stories about his name change, which included the following. Bauer was his mother's maiden name, that he was adopted, so he changed it. Biographer Dan Robson was told that the Cleveland Barons management may have asked him to change his name to avoid post-war discrimination against Eastern Europeans. Other sources claim that was because sports writers often misspelled his original last name of Kiszkan. That his parents' breakup may have also been a factor, suggests Dan Robson, as Bauer rarely talked about the situation, but did note he selected the new surname for himself. So that's, I think, as close as we're going to get to an actual reason why he changed his name to Bauer. And his surname was legally changed after his first year of hockey with the Cleveland Barons. So there you go. We have all these wild stories on why he changed his last name. It's pretty cool. I know in the autobiography or the biography that was written about him, there's like a whole chapter on it, on his last name, which is pretty crazy. All right. He taught himself how to play hockey using a branch as a stick and made himself goalie pads out of old mattresses. When he was,
you don't need fancy pads to play goalie.
Yeah, you don't. You can just cut a mattress in two and call it good.
Here you go.
Now this gets wild. When he was 15 years old, Bauer lied about his age and enlisted in the Canadian Army during World War II. From 1940 to 1943, he was stationed in England as a gunner with the 2nd Canadian Division. That is crazy. No, thank you. I don't see myself as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old fighting in World War II. That is nuts. Bauer made his debut in the NHL at age 29 and played until he was 45 years old.
So he went to war at 15 and became a professional hockey player at 29?
And he played a lot in the minors. He was a lot of AHL. Okay. And even when he made it with the Rangers, there was a couple of years where he went back to the AHL and was in the minors. So it's pretty crazy. His playing career in the NHL ended when he was 45. That's crazy for a goalie. So with him lying about his age to enlist in the Army, there were always questions about how old he really was. However, he did eventually state that he was born on November 8th, 1924. His nickname was the China Wall, which was given to him by a Cleveland sports writer during his minor league hockey career. Basically, the thought was he was made of brick, stone, like the Great Wall of China, and he kept the pucks out because he was like a brick wall, obviously.
Yeah.
Bauer kept a little black book on his NHL opponents, their tendencies with the puck, and where they shoot, which he would study before games. I bet he was one of very few people who did that much research back in the day. That wasn't a part of the game. Whereas now goalies know every tendency of every NHL player. It's pretty nuts what they have and the information they look at. Last fun fact. Bauer was the first goalie to regularly add the poke check to his arsenal. I saw somewhere said he was the inventor, but I don't know if he was really the inventor of the poke check, but that's what we got for the fun facts. Lots of fun facts with Mr. Bauer. I loved researching him. It was a lot of good information. All right, Josh, his rookie card is a 1954-55 Parkhurst, number 65, Johnny Bauer. Now, it is an error card. It's uncorrected error because his last name is misspelled as Bowers on the back.
Oh, wow.
Added the S. So just a note if anyone is interested in that. It should also be noted that 57 cards from the set, that 1954-55 Parkhurst set, were issued with 2 back variations. There's the standard back with stats and bios in English and French, which I'm showing right now on the screen for our YouTube viewers. But there's also a Lucky Premium back, which featuring one of 3 Lucky Premium card offers, including a gift list, camera, or hockey gloves, which was also in English and French. I'm showing a back of one that was for the hockey gloves, where you could send in money, get your nice pair of hockey gloves for $4.75. Pretty crazy.
They're more than that today, Troy.
They are definitely more than that today, especially goalie equipment. It's like crazy how much it is. Now, when I looked at his rookie card, I looked at the non-premium back or the non-lucky premium card back. So of his rookie card, I could not find any PSA 10s of this card. Highest PSA grade out there is a PSA 9 that has 3 copies out of a total of 339 graded. Last sale of a PSA 9 I could find was $2,409 US on June 14th, 2015. However, a PSA 4 copy of this card sold on April 9th of 2023 for $296.13 US. So that's kind of what I used when I was looking up the values. So kind of use those two numbers, add some maybe inflation in, and we'll call it good. The BGS registry had 57 graded copies, with a BGS 7 being the highest graded copy with a pop 7. All right. That's what we got. Fascinating guy, awesome goalie. Loved researching about him.
Very cool. Yeah, I did not know much about him before this, so it is interesting to learn about that. And it's funny how like mysterious he remained as a person. I don't know if you could get away with that today.
No,
right?
now
like
you
know
would
everything about anybody.
Yeah, they would. There's too many like sources now, right? There's be like a government source that would actually find out what his records said and tell everyone or tell a reporter. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of funny.
Okay, next episode we will cover the NHL's greatest player to wear number 2.
Number 2.
When we get to episode 102. But right now, Troy, we're going to introduce a new segment that'll run really for the next 5 episodes, including today. And it's our Gong Show 25. So we're going to introduce our top 25 hobby players in the NHL in order, counting down from 25 to 1. We've talked often on our show about hobby tiers, and mainly the top tier guys like McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, etc. It feels like the top of the mountain for current NHL players is pretty easy. But for a while now, Troy, I've been thinking about who should be in that broader group of top NHL players. How would you determine it? And really, what would the order be if we had to rank them? So we've taken a stab, and of course, we're calling it the Gong Show 25. It's our rankings of the current top 25 hobby NHL players. So here's now, we got to get into kind of all of our explanations and disclaimers about how we created our list. First of all, I want to say the keyword here is hobby, because we know that there's so many fantastic hockey players out there. Like Steven Stamkos is a guy we use as an example all the time that are an amazing hockey players, have had a tremendous career, but for whatever reason don't have a big hobby chase. So he's not going to be on our list. On the flip side, you're going to find a number of young, somewhat unproven rookies that did make our list who really have accomplished hardly anything in the NHL, let alone similar to a guy like Steven Stamkos, but they do have a big hobby chase because the hobby values prospecting. And those guys on the Gong Show 25 are, currently hot when it comes for hobby hype and hobby chase. So the factors that we use to determine who's on the list and what our rank order would be are what are the current hobby values, what's the chase factor, how many cards are bought and sold in secondary markets, and are feeling really on the player's general momentum in the hobby. Are they trending up or down? What their hype is as a player? So there's certain data points we used, and then there's other just kind of our interpretation of that mystical thing called hype, right? That everybody knows when it's there, but it's really hard to quantify or really even explain why a certain player may have or doesn't have it. A couple other things to remember about our list, and then we'll get right into starting with number 25 is first, this is a snapshot in time. It's the current top 25. It's not an all-time list. It's not a lifetime achievement list, right? Because a guy like Steven Stamkos, who is currently playing, might be on that if it's an all-time achievement list. And so there's going to be great legendary players that today are going to be ranked lower than some others that are either young, unproven, or don't have quite the resume that some of these players have. And secondly, I guess what I want to say is this is our list. It's me and Troy. It's not the definitive list. So no offense if we rank your guy lower than you would on your list. And, really it's just a fun thing to do in the off season. It's a great conversation starter. We're hoping to get a lot of feedback from you guys as to where you think we got it right, where we got it wrong, where you think we're crazy or not. And like I said, it's all meant in good fun. And then today, what we're going to do is we're going to break this up into 5 parts. We're going to start with our 25, number 25, and go down to number 21. And so go through the first 5 guys. Anything you want to add, Troy, before we get rolling?
No, you summed it up pretty well. I'm ready. Let's get going.
All right. So at number 25 in the Gong Show 25 is Jeremy Swayman. He's a 24-year-old goalie for your Boston Bruins, Troy.
Yep.
He's 6'2", 200 pounds from Anchorage, Alaska. Not a lot of goalies from Anchorage, Alaska, I don't think, in the NHL. So that was kind of cool to learn that. He was the 111th overall pick in the 2017 NHL entry draft. In 88 career games so far over the parts of 3 NHL seasons, he is 54, 23, and 7 for win-loss tie or overtime loss. That is pretty good record.
Yeah.
2.24 goals against, 0.92 save percentage. Last season, Troy, he finished 4th in the NHL in goals against and save percentage. And his rookies are in the 2021-22 hockey set. So he's got a lot of rookies still coming out. Looking at his Young Guns real quick, it's of course 2021-22 Young Gun, PSA 10 pop 556, has a 35% gem rate, last sold for $153 on July 14th. And now a little bit, I guess, why he made our list in the top 25 and came in at number 25. He is a great young goalie with a ton of talent who's, of course, playing on an Original 6 team in a fantastic hockey market. So that's going to help his hobby chase. He splits time with Allmark, and so some might see as a bad thing, but I see Troy as he's not prone to overuse and burnout like maybe Ottinger experienced last year. I think Jake Ottinger played something like 25 more games than Jeremy Swayman and keeps you fresher, maybe prolongs the career a little bit, maybe a little bit more consistent in your play. And then going back to the fact that his 2021-22 sets are still being released, it means a lot of his rookies are still coming out and the number of key sets haven't been released. So that's going to keep him really hobby relevant. As far as why we didn't rank him higher, well, he's a goalie. So he'll have limited hobby upside as a result.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say that, it's so true, right?
So
mean, right now, it is so true.
And the other side, or the flip side of him partnering with Allmark, is he's not quite the man yet in Boston, and so he's still, of course, splitting time with Linus Allmark, who won the Vezina Trophy. So you can't argue that, and that may shy people away a little bit because he's not definitively the guy there. As far as some notable hobby stats, he already has 5 sales of greater than $1,000 on the secondary markets, 37 sales at $500 or more. Top sale today, Troy, is the 2021 Young Guns High Gloss, which is, of course, is out of 10. It was a raw card that sold for $3,000 in March of 2022. Any other notes that you have on our number 25, Swayman?
Well, I'm going to say that Young Guns High Gloss, I have it up on the screen. High Gloss, I can't talk. Have that up on the screen. What a great looking card, especially with that high gloss tint to it. It looks
almost a color match.
Yeah, exactly. And then it is crazy that with those stats, I didn't realize his stats were so good. I knew they were good, but they are exceptional. And he's still not a starter. So the hope for him is he can find a starting job in the next couple of years, whether it be, I don't know, I can't remember what his contract status is, but whether it's with Boston or because Allmark's a little older, if I remember right.
Yeah, and Swayman's still pretty much a pup at 24, which, as we know, is pretty young for a goalie.
I mean, if you're a collector of him, you're excited because, like you said, there's still stuff coming out with his rookie cards in it, which is awesome if you're a Swayman person. So, nope. That's all I got.
Number 25, Jeremy Swayman. Okay, we're going to move on to number 24 in the Gong Show 25, and that is Elias Pederson. Ever heard of him, Troy?
I have heard of him, but I don't know about him that much. So I don't know about him. Is that how I say that? I'm just tongue twisted tonight. But yeah,
I'm glad you heard of him because it's on your list. But, all right, let's dig into Pederson a little bit. So Elias Fredrik Pederson is a Swedish forward for the Vancouver Canucks. He is also 24 years old, was Troy the 5th overall pick in the 2017 NHL entry draft by the Nucks. He's a big guy. He's 6'2". Pederson has played now in 5 full seasons in the NHL. So he came over pretty young, compiling career stats of 136 goals, 187 assists for 323 points and 325 games played. So, Troy, that is 0.42 goals per game over his career and 0.99 points per game. Just 2 more points would get him an even point per game. Pederson has just completed his best NHL season in 2022-23, scoring 39 goals, adding 63 assists for 102 points in 80 games played. That's pretty good. His 2018 Young Gun PSA 10 pop, get this, 2,032.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. It's always up. It's up there.
77% gem rate.
Wow,
which is crazy. Last sold for $158 on July 18th, down 22% in the past year. So here's why he made our list. He's a young, still very exciting player who really, when you look at his career trajectory, is consistently getting better. He also crossed that very important 100-point threshold this year and came also close to 40 goals while netting 39. And these are the types of numbers that move the needle when you're in the hobby and create excitement around players. Now, here's why we didn't rank him a little bit higher. Well, Vancouver's a little bit of a mess right now as a team. They don't seem anywhere near the playoffs at this point. Maybe Rick Tocchet and the other brass there can eventually help right the ship. They do have some young good talent as well as Pederson. They have Kuzmenko, Quinn Hughes, amongst others. Demko is a decent goalie there. So, yeah, they just were kind of a train wreck last year. The other thing I put to Troy as to why we wouldn't rank them higher is, while Vancouver is a fantastic city and a fantastic hockey city, for all these guys that play on the West Coast, it really limits the exposure and the ability for many NHL fans and hockey card collectors to see them play on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about like really good players that I don't know if I've ever actually seen play in a game, or I don't remember playing, I think for me, Pederson kind of falls in that bucket. How about yourself?
Oh, he's definitely in that bucket for me. And it's just hard to watch those West Coast games. Now, obviously, he's played against the Wild, and I have noticed him on the ice, but it's just I don't get to watch him as much as I would like.
Sure. Some notable hobby stats. The top Pederson sale to date is a card on the screen. It's a 2018 Young Guns exclusives out of 100 PSA 10 that sold for $5,011 back in November. There's been 69 Pederson sales of greater than $1,000 to date, Troy, and 231 sales more than $500. So at number 24, we have Elias Pederson. Okay, we're going to move on to number 23 on the Gongshow 25. We have our second and last goalie in the top on the list. So
Ottinger gang, rise up. Ottinger gang, rise up.
I'm not going to give too many hints, but there is a hint there. And Troy, you can't tune out now the whole rest of the episode. I don't know if I remember this, but did you know Sorokin's 27 years old?
I do remember that. I remember once looking him up last year, I think, and I was like, oh, he's older than I thought. But makes him right in his prime for a goalie.
Does make him right in his prime. So he's a little bit older than Swayman, of course, who is 24 years old. Sorokin was selected 78th overall in the 2014 NHL entry draft. Like with many Russian players, Sorokin would end up staying in Russia and playing in the KHL until coming over to the Islanders in the 2020-21 season. So that's like 6 extra years he stayed in Russia.
That was longer than Kaprizov.
Definitely. So far in the NHL, he's played in 136 games in the parts of 3 seasons, and he is 70, 46, and 18 with a 2.34 goals against and a .924 save percentage. Not too bad. Not won many, really any NHL awards to this point, but he does seem to have the respect of most NHL analysts and pundits, and I think is figured to be a Vezina contender for the next handful of years, at least.
Yeah.
He was a Vezina finalist this past season, which Linus Ullmark ended up winning, of course. Sorokin did win an Olympic gold medal in 2018 playing for Russia. He's a 2020 Young Gun. His PSA 10 pop 864, has a 57% gem rate. Last sold Troy for $99 on July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's why we put Sorokin on our list. And this is where I kind of want you to chime in and actually see if you agree with me. But as I mentioned, it seems like he does have a lot of respect around NHL circles for his ability. It seems like he's the guy that a lot of people point to as younger or rookie type goalies that have maybe the highest skill set.
Yeah, his technical skills. If you talk to any goalie coach or see any interview with a goalie coach in the NHL, he's always in the top 3. He is, if you watch him, he's technically sound. He moves with purpose. We call it quiet, where he doesn't make these extra movements. He's always where he should be. He's always reading plays, always looking at where the shot's coming from or where the puck's going. Yeah, it's crazy to me that he is so good, but he hasn't. I thought he did have a Vezina, but obviously that's wrong. And I think he will get one sooner or later. However, playing for the Islanders sometimes can probably hamper him a little bit in that chase, but he is definitely the backbone of that team.
Yeah. Seems like a very defensive structured team, and like that
Yeah.
they do really rely.
Well, yeah, you'll hear the people say that's why his stats are so good, right? Because they play a very defensive brand of hockey.
He also seems to have that it factor, or I don't know what we call it, mystical hobby hype. As we'll cover in a minute when we look at just how chased his cards are and how many sales he has. When you compare him to other current young goalies, he's kind of dominating the top end sales of them. So I don't know if it's a handful of like Islander whales or something like that, or people that are collecting, but people go hard after his cards.
Yeah, it could be some Russian oligarchs, maybe.
Maybe it's Putin. Putin's a big Sorokin fan. We don't know. Okay, why we didn't rank him higher? As with Swayman, of course, he's a goalie. We got to get back to that. And of course, that's a limiting factor when it comes to hobby hype chase and values. Also, while he's in the biggest media market, the Islanders do take a back seat when it comes to hobby hype. The Rangers, of course, are the number one attraction when it comes to hockey in New York. Plus, their play style, as we talked about, is defensive, and which translates to not as much fun to watch as other teams.
Let's call it what it is. Boring. It's boring.
While the Islanders too were a playoff team last season, I'm just not sure how much they're built to do damage in the playoffs or to make a deep run. So again, more code for, I guess I'm not envisioning a Stanley Cup anytime soon for Sorokin on the Islanders. Notable hobby stats: the all-time Sorokin sale, which we're looking at, is a 2020 Cup, the rookie Auto Black 101. It sold for $7,200 US on April 23rd. Around that time, another collector. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I'm looking at that card. Does that look like a $7,200 card?
Oh, it's a sticker auto, of course, as we know.
That's just, and we'll get to those in Pet Peeves, but it's like, I think it is nice. I get it, but wow. I like the 101, but man, 7,200, that's a lot.
I was going to mention too, around that time, another collector dropped almost 5,000 US for a 2020 Platinum Golden Treasures Auto 1 of 1. That was raw as well. So some big money being dropped on Sorokin cards. To date, Troy, there's been 12 Sorokin sales of greater than $1,000 US and 48 sales for more than $50 US. So number 23, Elias Sorokin. All right, Troy, we got to get to number 22 in the Gong Show 25. It's your guy, Moritz Seider from the Detroit Red Wings. Seider is a 22-year-old defenseman from Zell, Germany. Big kid, Troy, 6'4", listed at 207 pounds. Was the 6th overall pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft by the Wings. Afterwards, he played for one season in the Swedish Hockey League before making his debut for Detroit in the 2021-22 season, where in 82 games played, he had 7 goals, 43 assists for 50 points, which was good enough for him to win the Calder Trophy. This past season, he took a slight step backwards from a point production standpoint, putting up 5 goals, 37 assists for 42 points in 82 games played. He's a great young player who should be a top defenseman in the NHL for a very long time. Seider, of course, is a 2021 Young Gun. His PSA 10 popped 2,405 with the 63% gem rate, last sold for $101 US on July 16th. Okay, Troy, here's why he made our list. Seider's a great young talent that should anchor the Red Wings blue line for years to come and has the ability, I think, to be a perennial Calder candidate.
You mean
His
perennial Norris Trophy candidate?
Norris Trophy candidate. Yeah, geez, what am I thinking? The team is young and looks to be building a strong core that could make them competitive as early as really this year. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
or expect them to make a run for the playoffs. And then there's just no denying his hobby hype. When 2021 Series 2 was released, it was around the time that he was named the Calder Trophy winner. And collectors went nuts for his cards. That
Yep.
was for 2 months. He was a
Yes.
huge hobby chase, maybe the biggest
Crazy.
hobby chase at that
Yeah,
time.
it was crazy.
And while that cooled some in 2022-23, still has a very strong hobby presence. Okay, now we'll get into why he isn't ranked higher. Well, he's a defenseman, right? They kind of suffer a little bit from the goalie syndrome, and he hasn't proven to this point that he's much of a goal scorer. He had 7 goals
Yep.
his rookie year, followed with 5 his second year. We know that the hobby ultimately rewards most the goal scorers, especially if you can get that 40, 50 goal per season mark. And then while the Red Wings have plenty of potential, they're still unproven, and Sider hasn't benefited from any postseason spotlight as of yet.
Hmm.
Okay, all-time public sale, you want to put up on the screen, Troy, is a 2021-22 Skybox Metal Universe 97 Retro Gold PMG 101 that sold for $5,301 US in January 19th of this year. This is a pretty cool card.
This looks nice.
Yeah, I really, really like this card.
Even though I'm going to say it looks nice, but I don't know if it's $5,301 nice. But that's just me.
Yeah, PMG Gold 101.
Yeah, it's a 101. I get it. Yeah.
According to Card Ladder, Troy, there's been 17 Cider sales of greater than 1,000 US and 80 sales greater than 500 US. So that's number 22 for its Cider. All right, the last guy we're going to talk about in this show and the initial 5 of the Gong Show 25 is Patrick Kane of Buffalo, New York, who's a 5'10", 180-pound forward, currently an NHL free agent.
Mm-hmm.
He was the number 1 overall pick by the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2007 NHL entry draft. Kane has played the majority of his career in Chicago, where he won only 3 Stanley Cups, the Calder Trophy, a Conn Smythe Trophy, an Art Ross Trophy, and a Hart Trophy in 2016, amongst other awards. After 16 seasons in Chicago, Kane was traded to the Rangers, where he put up 12 points in 19 games played. For his career, Troy, he's produced 451 goals and 786 assists for 1,237 points in 1,180 games played. That is 0.38 goals per game, 1.05 points per game. He's a 2007 Young Gun. His PSA 10 Pop 368 has a 35% gem rate, and that last sold for $1,008 US on April 19th. So it has been a while since there's been a sale. It is down about 7% in the past year. Okay, we got to cover now why Patrick Kane made our list. Well, pretty easy to understand. He's on the short list of greatest American-born players in the history of NHL. I mean, would you put him in what, the top 2, top 3? Pretty easily.
For sure. Yeah.
He's got a dynamic skill set, flashy play styles, made him an NHL fan favorite for many, many years now. And averaging more than a point per game over his career, plus winning 3 Stanley Cups, gives him a strong resume to back up, of course, the hobby hype. And when we talk a little bit, Troy, about why we didn't rank him higher, first thing I'll say is this was one of the tougher ones.
Yeah, this was the back and forth and text message. Like, what do you think? Ah, man, I don't know. Let's think about this more.
And the first thing that I'll remind everyone is, remember, this is the current list of the hobby's top 25, not the all-time achievement ranking. We know about his legendary status in the hobby. And while Kane has still produced in his last few years in Chicago, especially this last year, the team felt old and wasn't really good. And even though Chicago is a great market, the team hasn't been super relevant. And he just also kind of, I think, my opinion is he just looked okay when he was traded to the Rangers. And I just feel like you don't see a lot of like big Kane sales. When we do our top 25 players for the total amount of cards sold each month, he's never in the top 25. And so I think he has the respect of the hobby. I I'm just not sure there's a current big chase for him.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get to it, but he does. I mean, he has a big sale of a card this year, but I think the important thing to look at is just the number of cards, and the chase is not as high as a lot of the other guys that's going to be on this list.
Mm-hmm. As far as looking forward, he is having surgery and hopefully getting healthy this summer. Maybe that had something to do a little bit to do with last year. I also presume he'll pick a contender once because he's not going to sign before the season starts. So maybe he'll wait a month or so and see who's off to a hot start and pick his team there. And if everything falls into place, maybe there'll be a little bit of a Patrick Kane resurgence next year. And when we refresh the Gong Show 25, he might move up the list. Notable hobby stats: top sale all time was 12,300 US in March of this year. For 2007, the Cup RPA out of 99, which was a BGS 8.510. I didn't include a picture because those cards are so scary because of the frequency of patch alterations that have occurred, and I couldn't remember how clean that card was.
I could probably look it up. Yeah. I might have the image up. I can't remember if it's on that Jeremy's site.
Oh, yeah. To date, there's more than 138 public sales of Patrick Kane cards for more than $1,000 US.
Wow.
324 sales for over 500 US. All right, Troy. So part one of the Gong Show 25, in order from number 25, Jeremy Swayman, Elias Pederson, Elias Sorokin, Mo Sider, and Patrick Kane. So on our next show, we're going to count down spots 20 to 16. Stay tuned for that. Got to make a quick mention for our Gong Show partner and sponsor, Slab Sharks. Of course, thank them very much for their continued support of our show. The current weekly Slab Sharks eBay auction ends tonight, so be sure to head to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction and place your bids. There's some really nice hockey cards, of course, in this week's auction. We shared our auction picks on our Insta stories, so you can check those out and what stood out to us there. Slab Sharks auctions run weekly, so if you do miss this week's auction, no worries. There's always great cards to bid on. Just jump on next week's auction. And then if you're a Canadian hockey card collector and are looking to move some cards for cash, we'd strongly recommend checking out Slab Sharks eBay consignment services. They really have two goals, Troy. Number one, to make it super easy to sell your cards on eBay by essentially them doing all the work. And then number two, expose your cards to the largest possible buyers pool by continuing to grow their weekly options and doing stuff like shipping to the US as well as Canada. So head to slabsharks.com for complete information on their consignment services and to get started.
I will say, Josh, I do have some bookmarked this time that I will be watching. I might be.
Yeah, you had sent me one, didn't you? You texted me.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to say that one because I don't even care because people should go look at that card. The Brent Burns Chewbacca. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic.
Pretty cool.
I did not know about these cards, and to me, it's just awesome. I love crazy cards like that. I love the background. I don't know why there's a Texas flag. Is that a Texas? I think there's a Texas flag in the background. It makes no sense to me, but unless he's from Texas, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Doesn't he live on a van?
I don't know. I just love that card. It's so awesome.
All right, we're going to roll into hobby news real quick. So Upper Deck Troy just gave us a sneak peek not too long ago of 2021-22, the Cup designs.
Look at all them.
They posted to their social media. Predators, second-year player now, Philip Tomasino, signing a number of his, presumably, of course, 2021 the Cup RPAs and button cards. No, I didn't include a picture of the button card, but I think in general, I'm not a fan of the button cards. Are you?
No, I'm not a fan of the button. Or I think, did they also include a couple of the laundry tag ones?
Yeah, they might have, like out of 3 years.
Like that. I think that I'm not a laundry tag guy either.
What do you think of the design from what you can see here?
I think the design looks okay. I mentioned this to you, and maybe someone will correct me, but I thought the patch windows look a little smaller than I'm used to. But it's not like I buy a bunch of Cup or Cup cards all the time. But it just seemed those patch windows looked a little small. But maybe I'm just misremembering.
Yeah, they do look a little small. It's also kind of interesting when you get to see all the cards side by side like this to see the variability in patches.
Yeah.
Right, there's some very, very nice patches in here and some ones that, listen, I don't think
Well,
you
I was gonna
you
say, I would
want to.
like to. Why can't they be? I wish they were like, if all these were all the patch cards, they would make a one giant patch, kind of like that Pekka limited
Oh,
load thing, or
yeah,
the I can't remember what they called, monumental patch card.
monumental patch.
Yeah, but I wish it would, because it seems like they're kind of just randomly placed, which might be what they need to do. But yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of interesting to see the variety of the patch. Like, look at, if you're watching the YouTube video, I'm got one here where that might be an eye or something. I don't know what that is, but that looks cool. Maybe not.
Now, I'm also kind of reading tea leaves here and extrapolating, admittedly, but I also kind of take this as a hint that 2021-22, the Cup is definitely in progress, in development, and will be out sooner than later. Like, I don't think you would post this if it's going to be 2.5 more years before the release. So I'm really hoping next spring-ish would be great. Just like, even around the same time 2020 the Cup came out. But nice to see. Overall, the designs look clean and just can't wait for it.
Yeah, and I saw, is this something they've always done too? Put that wording on it that says auto patch?
I think maybe.
Okay, they probably did.
Yeah.
Again, my memory doesn't serve me well on this.
Okay, moving on, Troy. Your guy, Connor Bedard, turns
All right.
18. Did you send him a birthday card?
I did not. I did not.
Oh, boy.
Try to get some of that money.
It's probably sad now. Well, what a great birthday present. He signed his 3-year entry-level contract with the Chicago Blackhawks on his 18th birthday, which was this past Monday. Is that a pretty similar experience to your 18th birthday? Did you do something to me?
No, I did not sign any NHL contract on my 18th birthday. I want to say one thing though. Seeing this picture of him in the Blackhawks jersey, just imagining those patch cards when you look here in the feathers. Whew,
oh yeah,
nasty.
His deal comes with only a $950,000 US salary cap hit for the Blackhawks, so that should give them plenty of money to build the team around. It's crazy that the number one pick gets paid less than $1 million.
And that's all written into the collective bargaining agreement, I think, right? Yeah, it's all tiered and all that. I think George actually mentioned or explained to us how that kind of worked on when he was on.
We think he'll make 5 times in endorsements that he does from the Blackhawks.
Yeah, maybe.
You'd think so.
But the thing, like, then it's an NBA rookie who gets oodles upon oodles of money. Oh, crazy.
Okay, last story in hobby news. The Calgary Flames, Troy, have announced they will retire the number 34 worn by goaltender and franchise legend Mika Kiprusoff. The Finnish goalie was the 16th overall pick in the 1995 NHL entry draft. It's kind of funny, too, when we were talking about this story in the last day or two, his career landed right when we were in college and getting married and having young kids and not exactly following the NHL super closely. And so it was a little bit of a mystery, I think, to both of us. So after being selected, he played his first 2 seasons, or I guess his first 2 seasons in the NHL with the San Jose Sharks, Troy, in 2001-2 and 2002-3 before being traded for a second-round pick to Calgary, where then he played 9 seasons with the Flames until retiring after the 2012-2013 season. So his number 34 is going to be retired on March 2nd, 2024, when the Flames play the Penguins in Calgary, of course. It'd be weird if they did in Pittsburgh, huh?
Yeah.
Hold on. Stop your intermission. We're going to retire this guy's number. He retired as the Flames leader in wins with 305, goals against average 2.46, and save percentage with .913. He also holds the 4 highest win totals in a season in Flames history, with the highest being 45 wins in 2008-2009. Kiprusoff won the Vezina Trophy in 2006, finishing the season 42, 20, and 11 with a team record 10 shutouts. That's crazy, huh? 10 shutouts in a year.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I looked at his stats, and if you want to know why he's besides what you've read, why he's a Flames legend, I'm going to count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 7 straight seasons with the Flames where he started or he played in 70 plus games.
Oh my gosh.
now you know why he's a Flames legend. When that's your goalie and he's running 70+
Yeah.
games a year, that is amazing.
Kiprusoff was also a Hart Trophy finalist in that 2006
wow.
year where he won the Vezina. So his rookie, which is on the screen, is kind of falls in the sort of late 90s, early
Yeah.
2000s where people didn't know what they were doing with NHL rookie cards. So it's basically a World Juniors where he's in his
Yeah.
Team Finland uniform. It is, I mean, it's better than like 1990 Pro Set. So he's in 1994 or 1994, 95 Topps Finest. We're showing the refractor here.
Yeah.
Those are coolest. A PSA 10 sold for 85 US last December. But it's just a
And
tragedy.
it's not a
like
glamour
this.
shot either, like our favorite early 90s upper deck glamour shot rookie cards.
Peter Forsberg or something like that.
Yeah, with the stick leaning over. Oh, that's fantastic.
All right, Troy. We're gonna move on now. And
all right.
Kind of, are we like treading in the net? You know, we stay pretty positive. I don't know. Is this negative or we're just talking about pet peeves? I was thinking about this the other day, and you know, as fun as this hobby is, as amazing as it is, there are some things that just bug you or annoy you.
Yeah.
You think are pet peeves, and don't worry, Troy, you're not one of mine. And so I thought, well, if we're going to list our pet peeves, we can't just be complainers, right? We got to also offer solutions. So how we would fix it. And so we're going to offer kind of what bugs us the most about the hobby and then what we would do to fix it. And because I always start first with everything, Troy, I thought we would start with you this time. And so without further ado, everyone, Troy's going to get annoyed and give you his top 5 hobby pet peeves.
So pet peeves. So it's kind of funny when we say pet peeves because I kind of like this segment because I want to say what mine are and then have people say, no, that's not that big a deal. You're just a bonehead and you're too hurt by something that's not a big deal. But again, these are my top 5. I will be putting up images if you're watching the YouTube that kind of that help explain some of the things I'm talking about. And mine are pretty, I don't know what you want to say, basic. They're pretty easy solutions, I think. So I'm not going to get into a bunch of crazy stuff. But my first one and my pet peeve is that the name of the card is not on the back of every one of them. So I want the name of the card on the back of every card. And if it can't be every card, I want at least, if it's a parallel, to list the name of the parallel. That's all I'm asking because it's one of the things that really bugged me when I started collecting, when I got back into collecting. We've heard from people in our Discord. We've heard from people that have messaged us that have gotten back into it. And there's some sets that do this and they do it really well. And I find it very beneficial and some don't. And I think it would just make the life of a collector a lot easier if the name of the parallel, if we're just going to do parallels, was on the back. So if you look
I'll give you a really good example of what you're talking about. So OPG Platinum, puts most of their parallels on the back, which is fantastic. And their sister set OPG Paper is a mystery to try to figure out whatever card you ever pull.
And part of the mystery is fun. I get it, the Easter eggs and some of that stuff's cool. But like I'm showing on the screen, I think Allure does a really good job of saying what each card is. So I'm showing a Jersey Red Rainbow here of McDavid. And when you look at the back, it says in bright, big letters, Red Rainbow Jersey. And Allure, that's the one I really noticed that did that really well. Now, it would really, really be beneficial. And the thing is, a lot of times, a lot of people, they might not think this is a big issue because you do this for long enough. I think we've gotten pretty good at, we can see a card. Let me look at the checklist quick, see what the parallel names are. And you can tell by looking at it what it is. But I think it would just make it a lot easier for like newer collectors and just to maybe save some time. And I'm not saying it has to be spread out in huge letters like this Allure card. If it's just something small, I know sometimes Topps cards have a different code on the back, and that code is literally the smallest thing you've ever seen. You got to get a jeweler's loop out to see it. But my solution, put the names of the card on the back. And if we're just going to do parallels, I'm fine with that. I don't think you need every card to say like base. If it's a base card. So that's my first one. Josh, any comments?
I definitely agree with you. It would make it a lot easier. And I think it would, like one of the negative impacts of this is that cards often get listed incorrectly because the seller doesn't know what card they have.
Yep.
And that
That's a
can
good point.
create confusion for buyers and not good situations.
Definitely. All right. My second pet peeve is that there is no repository of images for all the big cards in a set. And when I say big cards, I'm thinking patch autos right off the top of my head. Maybe even autos could have their own as well, just to try to maybe stem some fake auto stuff. But for sure, the patches and the patch autos. This has come up because we've seen the fake patch news. It stinks. No one likes it. It stinks if you bought one of them and you find out it's a fake. I think there's a way to fix this, and we've brought it up before. This isn't the first time we said it. It's for the manufacturer of the card to scan the cards and put them in a public accessible database or some way where we can see on these huge or the big cards. Just take the cup, right? That's one we all think about. The cup and the patch autos, like we showed those ones, the Tomasino ones. Start with those and put those on, and out of 99s and all that. And that's where I think I would start with this and then go from there and expand if possible. And I will give credit. There's been work done on this by others. Jeremy Lee, I'm going to show it on the screen. He has a Hobby Insider page that still it's up and running, and it's got all the patch, or he got to go. He tells a story on, I think it's episode 22 of our podcast, where he says he got to go to the pack out, take pictures. So there's this website, hobbyinsider.net/archives.html, where he has all these pictures of like the Backstrom 2007-08 Upper Deck the Cup out of 99. You click on it, and then it brings up all the ones. And if there's any fakes, it will say. So it's just a really good resource for that small set of cards that he has on there.
Yep.
Also, Mitch Grotman has been doing some work on Instagram. He's got an Instagram account called fake_hockey_patches that is trying to find fake patches and listing them out. So there are people doing work on this, which is greatly appreciated. I just think it would be an invaluable resource if we could have the manufacturer provide the images of the cards when they are produced. Again, I know it's logistical. It probably costs a lot of money, but I think it would be a huge win for the hobby if this could get done at some point.
Can I throw an alternative to that out there?
Yes, go for it.
What if they found a way to manufacture these cards where there was no way to take out the original patch without destroying the card?
So you think like some kind of ink or something where
some sort of like crazy super glue that would rip off the back of the card if you tried to remove the patch.
Agree. I still would like images, but if that's what we have to do to try to stem the fake patch stuff, I'm all for it. My third pet peeve, and this one's really kind of recent. At first it didn't bother me, but I think I'm being a big diva now. It's sticker autos. And I get the reason why I have sticker autos. It makes sense. However, the more I collect and the more autos I get, I just want them to be all on card. And I think it's coming down to the fact that there's really something that I can like kind of picture the player holding the card, signing it, rather than just having this big sticker sheet in front of them and just rifling off 100 signatures on a sticker sheet. So I think it's like a bigger connection with the card and the player in some way. That's kind of how I've reasoned with it. Obviously, what's the solution? Get rid of sticker autos, but I don't think that can happen with how things work right now in today's environment. But it is a pet peeve of mine that I'm really not liking sticker autos the more I go.
Would you be okay with less autos in a product than?
I think so.
And then having a hard time, because you are also a guy that likes your one auto per box on average too.
I think I'd be okay, even though I do like my auto per box, and I'm okay with it on like legends or players that are deceased. Obviously, they got the sticker sheets. That's what you got to do. But it's a good question. I think I would be okay, but maybe not. Maybe I would see too many products without that guaranteed auto and get mad about it. But
do you think they should stop producing cards once guys die? Should Upper Deck produce any more Gordie Howe cards?
Well, I will say this. I think there should be a discussion with the family. And because they got to get the licensing. So I'm guessing they've had that discussion. If like Gordie Howe at some point before he passed away didn't want that, I would hope he'd tell his family and then they wouldn't license it anymore. But I always feel that if the cards are being produced, that they probably have an agreement with him. So that's how I kind of look at it. All right. Fourth one. And this maybe I'm getting super petty. So, but I really, really wish Upper Deck would update their website, specifically the checklist section of the site. And it's the one thing that annoyed me so much when I started, because obviously you can get the checklist on Cardboard Connection or Beckett. I get that. But I feel like the manufacturer of the cards should have that should be where I go for my source of truth for the checklist. And I remember the first time I went out here, and you go to the products section, you go sports checklist, and you're met with the most recent one being 1819 clear cut. I was just flabbergasted. And then there's only like 10 sets listed on here, and I'm not sure why these 10 are listed. But I really wish they would do something and kind of put them on their site too, just for even for new collectors that people are coming into the hobby. I would think, well, I'll go to Upper Deck's site and I could see a checklist. I don't know if you know something different, but that is my utopia, that they would have everything on their site.
Well, I hadn't thought of this until kind of soaking in your gripe about them not having the checklist. I don't understand strategically why they wouldn't want the checklist on your site. All they're doing is sending millions of page views every year to Beckett and Cardboard Connection. Why wouldn't you want those on your website, especially with EPAC? Can you imagine if you're getting 2-3 million extra hits or sessions?
Well, they for sure have the EPAC checklist, because you can go to the product on EPAC.
No, but I'm saying it's like you can promote EPAC.
I got you.
People that are, it's like they're giving all their traffic away for, and it's not that hard, right? You just need to devote a resource to it. I don't understand why Upper Deck would want to give that traffic away. It's very poor marketing strategy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now they might feel like, well, with Cardboard Connection, get mad at them if they no longer game their checklist, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some strategic reasoning, and we probably just don't know what it is, but I've always found that kind of odd. And then also, this was a user once pointed out to us that I kind of noticed too. If you go to the Upper Deck's main homepage, it's not like secure. It's not HTTPS. So it's not like a secure website, where I thought there was some rule where every website had to go to HTTPS protocol, but not the regular Upper Deck. And I brought up Tops because I was like, go to the regular Tops page and it's secure. Now, if you go to anything Storewise or EPAC or Redemptions on Upper Deck site, it's secure. They take you to a secure site. But I always thought it was kind of odd that the main page on Upper Deck wasn't secure.
I don't think they've updated it in 10 years, have they?
Well, I was going to say
very old design. It's not even responsive. Go back to Tops real quick, right?
Tops is very new.
It takes the whole page. There's a whole visible area where Upper Deck is not at all.
Yeah.
But
these are, now let's be honest. These are pet peeves, but I can live without this. This is nothing that's gonna stop me from going about enjoying the hobby or anything, or joining.
You're not gonna quit the hobby because of the website? Okay.
No, I'm not gonna quit the website. And then my last pet peeve was I called it standardized data. And I've tried to explain this concept before, and I don't think I do a good job, but it's some way that all the big selling sites could somehow standardize how cards are listed, tracked, etc., so sales could be more easily tracked. I know it's probably not in their interest to do this, but think of it like the stock market. If I go buy a stock, there's this stock exchange where I know exactly what the ticker symbol is. If I want to get a different class of share, I thought about that like a parallel. I know exactly what it is. Now you take this for cards, and it would just be a lot cleaner for data sources. I don't think this is ever happening. This is such a utopia ask for me. And then when you list cards on eBay, I wish every card was in eBay, because I'll go with them because they're the biggest. I wish they had every card in there, so you had to choose it from a list. I know that's probably impossible, but that would save so much pain on people mislabeling, misleading, and all that kind of stuff. So if someone has billions upon billions and trillions of dollars, go about the standardized data one, because I don't think that's going to happen, but it's always a pet peeve, and I wish it could change.
All right, Troy, there's your top 5 hobby pet peeves. We'll start with mine now, and I'm going to start where you left off, in the inconsistency in the reporting of sales data. which I think ties into how cards are listed and the fact that if there was a standard format, that generally it would be easier to track sales because there's a million examples, right? OPC, is it spelled out
Yeah.
O-PEE-CHEE or is it OPC, right? One of the most commonly uh, listed cards that has no basically consistency is Future Watch Autos. Some people list them as SP Authentic out of $9.99. Somebody lists
Yeah.
them as Future Watch. Other people list them as Future Watch Autos out of $9.99. It's just crazy. But to me, Troy, that all leads to my pet peeve, which is the inconsistency in the reporting of sales data. A good amount of cards are bought and sold for significant money, and I think sales histories are critical to gauging the market and kind of understanding comps and the values and really information you need to effectively buy big cards. And there's just no consistency in the data around sales. Every platform seems to have nuances and inconsistencies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Card Ladder is often missing sales. We can't just use Card Ladder. We have to verify Therapy because they miss stuff. And that's annoying, right? To have to now, for every one piece of data, I have to look at two different sources and try to triangulate what I think will be most effective. 130 point will show sales that are not paid for. eBay sales history also shows sales that are not
Yep.
paid for. But eBay's other reporting platform, Terrapink, will show only sales that are paid for. But they will also show a card is sold if it's been returned, right? And so, being honest here, the line share of all sport card transactions occur on eBay, and I think this is where we need to start to solve the problem. First off, considering eBay sales history and Terapeak are both eBay system reports, it's mind-boggling to me, Troy, that they report different data.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that like what you learn not to do on like day one of data school? Like
Yes.
when you show, I just don't get it. I don't
I'm curious if
understand.
they like leg it, like what back end do they have different back ends and they just don't have the resources and time right now, but it's eBay. They got billions of dollars to like merge these into one. I'm always curious why they have these two different separate systems.
They need to move to one universal reporting system. And then with each sale, I would love to see like a status, right? So here's a card that's
Yeah.
sold, and then was it paid for? Yes, on this date. Then was it authenticated? Yes or no. And then, if it was returned, right, have the sort of check mark there. So you can see with each closed auction or transaction exactly what happened with that sale or card. I would also like to see them extend their look back to 3 years. They go up to 2 years in Terapeak, which is useful, but
Mm,
I think 3 years would be better.
yeah.
And then finally, I think it benefits eBay a lot actually to have a really robust API that would allow third-party platforms like Card Ladder, Market Movers, at 130 point, etc., to utilize their data. The better data people get off eBay, I think the more apt consumers are to use their platform to buy and sell cards, don't you?
Yeah, and I wonder, I know eBay does have an API, but I think they restricted it hugely. Like they made a decision a while back that kind of crippled a lot of companies that use the eBay API, if I remember right. Now, I don't use it. I didn't use it, so I could be not saying it correctly, but I think I remember reading something about that.
All right, my second pet peeve are QC issues straight out of the pack,
Mm,
and especially on
yeah,
like the biggest cards. We hit a David Pasternak Ruby Red medallions out of 50 recently in Fleer Ultra, which was e-pack, right? So it was never in another consumer's hands. And we got the card sent from ComC. One of the corners was kind of pretty dinged up.
yeah,
This has happened to all of us, and there's other issues. Like we've seen a ton of like horrible centering issues with OPG Platinum. And while I don't expect cards to be perfect, of course, but I think that there's this point, like when you're opening it's so hard to hit a really good card. And when you finally get that good card, and then that split second later, you realize that it's kind of all
hmm,
dinged up or damaged, it's just deflating. It kind of, sucks the life out of the fun in owning that or buying that box. Um, I don't know. Do you feel that way when that happens?
yeah. It's disappointing, but we've all dealt with it. I'm curious where the damage occurs. Is it because a lot of these are in like cello packs when they're in the box and they kind of bang around, or are they straight off the production line? I would always be curious if they've ever done a study on that kind of stuff. But yeah, the big cards, again, nothing is going to be perfect. We don't expect everything to be perfect. Let me take that back. Not every card can be a PSA 10. We know that's not going to happen. However, it'd be really nice if the big cards were at least really, they didn't have issues like
PSA 8, PSA 9.
Yeah.
Or,
well, I remember
or
watching
not have centering that's 90-10.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, we've seen those. I remember like when I first started watching breaks, someone pulled I think a Laffy, and it was just wrecked. I mean, it was a huge card too, if I remember. It might have been out of, was it Premiere or something? I can't remember what it was, but it was really damaged. And he just shows it. They're all excited, and then he sees it, and the breaker's just like, it's still sell for a lot of money if the guy wanted to sell it, but that's always disappointing.
And I know Upper Deck is pretty good. Like if it's a huge RPA like that, and there's something like obviously really, really wrong with it, I think they usually step up and fix it. And so kudos to them for doing that. And this isn't like a bash Upper Deck kind of thing.
No.
But like I said, it's just deflating when that happens. And so here's my fix. And I'm curious if you would go for this or not. Upper Deck really has to be part of the solution because they're the ones making the cards. I don't know about you, but I think I would spend $5 to $10 more per box if Upper Deck were able to spend the money and add an extra layer of quality control to ensure that the biggest hits of a set come out with a minimal standard of quality. Like they would commit to and then if cards come off the line or whatever you call it as part of the manufacturing process, that they would just reproduce those cards until they get it right and it meets their minimum quality threshold. Now, by minimum quality, I'm not saying PSA 10, right?
Yeah.
Like we said, we don't expect perfection, but when you have some of these kind of egregious sort of issues, that it's and I don't think it helps Upper Deck either.
Yeah. I wonder if 5 to 10 is too low for all the extra steps that would have to be and man hours and labor. I'm curious if that what if it's 50 more per box?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that, but they would have to figure that out. Well, do you have any other ideas? Like what would you do to help this issue?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you pull them all? You make sure you look at every single big hit and pull them out and go over them. And if they don't meet your quality, you rip them up or whatever, shred them and redo it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I can think of. And again, we remember all the ones we see that are bad. You don't see people posting all the time about the great ones a lot of the time. So just remember, this is kind of one of those things where we focus on the stuff we see a lot. And a lot of people are very good about posting the 90-10s or of those big cards. So just remember that. Not every card is like mangled and everything.
Okay, my third biggest pet peeve in the hobby is sellers that take and post bad photos of their cards. Now, this is
why did I not think of this one?
This is doubly annoying to me because I look up a lot of sales to do our social media posts, and I want to have, when we have a record sale for an amazing card, I wanted to create a nice post, and the cards are the stars of the show. And when the picture's awful, it kind of ruins the whole vibe, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when I'm trying to buy a sports card, and I'm like squinting to try to make out what's going on in this photo. That's not good either. Right. So, and I don't think it's a technology issue. As most of these days, everyone has smartphones with crazy cameras that we could have never imagined. And to me, Troy, it's especially annoying when you're hunting for a card that's not super common and doesn't come up for sale very often. If I'm buying a Mo Side or Young Guns and I come across a seller with a terrible photo, I just move on to one of the other 800 options out there. But what happens when it's a card that maybe you have in your saved search history and it hasn't come up in 3 months and you're trying to maybe the photo is dark or blurry or it's a weird angle where the card looks like a trapezoid now, or something like that, or the person's holding it, or there's huge glare marks in it. And also, I think we need to point out this happens all the time. And I'm not talking about like $5 cards here. I see examples constantly of cards for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 plus, where it's just they have the worst pictures. And at the end of the day, I think it's kind of laziness. right?
Yeah.
Where if people took a little bit more time, spent more effort, found good lighting, a good solid color dark background, and did a little bit of photo editing that's real easy on all of our phones, that we could make a lot of progress on this issue. So I see cars all the time that are like laid down on like great grandma's Davenport that she bought in 1974 that has like a menagerie of flowers and 600 colors where you can't,
Yeah.
it's like swallows the whole card. And I hope you noticed too, I use the word Davenport because that's the great grandma term for a couch, right, Troy? You ever have
Yeah.
a Davenport in your family? I think both my grandmas
I
did.
don't think so. I'm sure my grandma did, but I don't remember it. I don't remember the menagerie of flowers.
So yeah, I get super annoyed when people take bad photos. The other thing I was thinking about with this is, do you remember that SNL skit with, I think it was Seth Meyers and Amy Poehler, maybe Tina Fey, where they did "Come On Man"
Oh
as part of
yeah,
Weekend
yeah,
Update?
yeah,
In a segment like that, I would put this one in for sure. I'd be like, "Come on, man,
yeah.
take good photos." All right, my pet peeve number 4 is lack of MSRP pricing on new products. Okay, so I'm going to be the first to admit, Troy, I don't know a lot about like local card shop
Yeah.
economics, but I do find it frustrating to see such wildly different prices on hobby boxes at all of our local area card shops. And it's not that like just some shops are consistently like more expensive than others. We'll go to a shop and the one box will be $30 more than the one we were at an hour before, but then they'll have another box that's $20 less. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of all over the place. And that's just comparing local card shops too. If you throw in the online retailers, I think it gets even more crazy. And I would just love to see more price standardization. So I don't, again, this is like looking at the consumer, right? And taking a consumer first approach. I don't want to do a bunch of research and make a ton of phone calls when I want to go buy a hobby box to see who has the best price. Because as we know, most LCSs aren't allowed to put their prices online either. So you have to
Hmm.
call them and say, how much is your synergy, right? Box. And, if one's 140 and one's 95, well, that makes a big difference. If it's $5 here and there, no big deal, right? I'm not just gonna go to whatever's closest. And I'm not sure how big of an issue this is for you all, whether you're in Canada or whatever state you live in. But Troy, as you can attest, we see these swings all the time here in Minnesota.
We do, and I think, but to me, it's kind of fun.
Really?
I kind of like when I go to a shop and then I'm like, oh, that price looks way cheaper, and I look up it online, and then it makes me buy it there. I get what you're saying. It's kind of the hunt. I get that it does take time to call all these shops, especially if you're in a big city, to try to find the best deal. And that's where that manufacturer suggested retail price can really help with that. But I will say, I still think the funnest thing ever is at the card shows to run around like we were at the
Yeah.
expo, running around trying to find the cheapest box of stuff. That was fun. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But to me, I'm not as peeved about this one.
Okay. All right. The last pet peeve is really being annoyed with myself. So I'm tabling this my introspective pet peeve. And honestly, Troy, it's when I do dumb stuff, and I do it way too much. I do dumb stuff all the time, and I don't really understand why. Half the time, I make hobby mistakes, which are, of course, normally money related. It's because I get like way too swept up in the moment, or by not having a deep enough understanding of what I'm doing. So, as an example, and we're going to pull back up the screen because this is probably something I should never do, but I'm going to go throw myself under the bus. So, did I send you a link to this, Troy?
No, you never sent me this card, but I'll look for it.
Oh, okay. It's the go into Card Ladder sales history and find the just search for Sidney Crosby orange highlight.
Oh,
Highlighter.
I'm not logged into Card Ladder on here.
Okay. Well, so
But here's
anyways,
one.
as an example, if you go look up yourself Sidney Crosby highlighter, the insert from 2022-23 series 2, on release day, I just like this card. I like acetate cards. I like color acetate cards. I saw one poster right away in my mind, and I'm like, ooh, I need this. I gotta have it. And I paid $89 for it. So the top sale ever for a Sidney Crosby orange highlighter was on April 5th. And yeah, that's me. Now, if you do a little bit more research, you would notice that the next highest sale for one is 37 US, and the most recent is $8.72 US. And this guy with two thumbs right here paid $89 for it. And the super sad part about this, Troy, is I know totally better than to do that.
Yeah.
I honestly can't even explain to me what came over that day other than, like I said, there's a new colored acetate. I have to have it. I'm going to get it. Ooh, somebody posted it. In my mind, it's like the only one that's ever going to exist. And I have whatever they're asking for, I have to pay right now. And, there's always going to be a sucker on release day. And that day, April 5th, it was me. And I wish this was the first time I've done this. It isn't. I don't even blame the seller. Good job on him, right? You got it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. And I made other mistakes too, not just like being impulsive on release day, but just where I didn't know better. And while you have a little bit more excuse there, it's not less painful.
Yeah.
And so what's the solution that I have to keep reminding myself, and hopefully others can learn from this too, that suffer from the same affliction I do, is that 99 times out of 100, you're going to be so much better off being patient. Right? When that little part of your mind is saying, this is the only Sidney Crosby orange highlighter that will ever exist, they are lying to you because, 4 months later, it'll be $9 and you just spent $90 on it. It's, and now I have, I'm just going to keep it forever because it's just a memento of me doing something stupid. But in general, impulsivity is not good.
Yeah. Agree.
And now I'm just kind of bitter about it. And now the fact that I'm bitter is annoying. So it's just, how that
Let's move on. Let's move on.
So my last biggest hobby pet peeve is me because I'm done. Okay. We're going to move on to the PWCC Weekly Preview. PWCC, of course, is a Gong Show partner and sponsor. We want to thank them for supporting our show. We don't talk about it much, Troy, but their fixed price marketplace is a great spot to find some really good hockey cards. Right now, there's over 5,000 hockey cards available for sale on PWCC fixed price marketplace at pwccmarketplace.com, where you'll find cards as low as $5 up to asking prices of over $1 million. So cards for every budget, Troy.
Yep.
Me on the $5 end, and you with your deep pockets on the $1 million side. But Troy, it is Thursday, and time for one of our most favorite segments where we get to highlight our favorite cards in the current PWCC Weekly auction.
Yep.
Learn more about the cards, the sets, the players, and we always pick a couple vintage cards, a couple modern cards. So we're going to start, as we always do, with the oldies and on the vintage end. So the first card, Troy, 1970 OPG Bobby Orr, number 3 in the set, PSA 8.5 with the PWCC S, which is their superior eye appeal, which puts in the top 5% of, I guess, cards at that grade. It's a pop 4 with 20 graded higher. There's 19 PSA 9s and 1 lonely PSA 10. Well, of course, this is not the rookie Bobby Orr, which is a 1966 tops, but for any Orr enthusiast or collector, or if you want to get the player run, or you just collect Hall of Fame cards, or you PC Bobby Orr, this might be a good option for you. So a couple things that stood out to me immediately about this card is that, number one, it's a pretty high grade at PSA 8.5, and then you get that superior eye appeal rating, where, again, PWCC is saying it's in the top 5%. The copies, and it is a really, really nice card for an 8.5. So you're knowing that you're getting kind of the best of the breed when it comes to cards at that grade. The centering, of course, is awesome on the card, which is tough in any vintage set. One thing I will admit, though, about this card is I've always been a little bit conflicted about this design from 1970. I like the overall design. I'm not sure how I feel about the white dots. I think they're supposed to be like background lights or spotlights. That's sort of how I've always interpreted them, but they're a little weird too.
I've never understood what those are supposed to be. I think you're right. I think they're supposed to be lights, but I don't think it adds anything, and it's kind of distracting.
My favorite part of this card, though, Troy, is have you noticed his legs, especially in the shin pad area?
I did.
So whatever OPG used to like crop photos. I mean, I don't know, maybe they had to like cut photos out at the time. It is the most obvious like bad crop job ever.
Yeah.
It's like his like, how do you describe that?
Yeah, look at how that is weird.
It's like his like knees are 17 times wider than his ankles.
That is a cankle. He's got like a cankle going
Well, it's a
on.
reverse cankle because
Oh, it is a
his
reverse
knee-
cankle. That's right.
He's got knee cankles in
Yeah, that's
the
funny.
photo, whatever that is. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think that kind of makes the card funny. So Bobby Ortroy was a good hockey player. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Oh, yeah.
Most sane people consider him the GOAT defenseman of all time. He's a Blackhawks legend, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Played 2 years for the Blackhawks. He only did play 657 games. Did you know that?
Yep. I knew it was short because I knew his knees were just shot.
Well, they're very swollen in this photo.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
maybe this is really a picture of what it looked like.
yeah. So he did play that 657 games in a career that spanned 12 years. In those 657 games, though, he did score 270 goals and notched 645 assists for 915 points. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Last sale of 1970, Bobby Orr OPG PSA 8.5 was 3,000 US in November 2022, which was also the all-time sale, and it was also this exact card. Card bid, Troy?
I have no idea. I forgot to look up the current bids. Here, let's do it. We're gonna do on-air marketing or on-air meeting. We'll look it up right now. There you go. Oh my god, I'm not even signed in. Oh, it's a disaster.
Current bid's $825.
There you go. $825.
All right, Troy, you got the next card.
I do.
Vintage.
I do got the next card. So I went with a Parkhurst card. Obviously, I think I'm just becoming a broken record. Plus, it is an NHL great, Ted Kennedy. It's a 1954 Parkhurst Ted Kennedy number 29 PSA 8. Again, when I do these cards, I usually look for Parkhurst or some vintage card and of a great player that I don't know that much about. And this matched both of those criteria. So that's why I did it. So let's look at the card first. I think the card actually looks super nice. I'm going to like zoom in for our YouTube video viewers. Looks really nice. The picture on the card is a side view action shot of Ted Kennedy skating. I love the Maple Leafs jersey in it. It's got that old logo on it. I do wish his stick, like the stick end was visible. I don't like how it's cut off, but it's still a really good picture and it looks really great from the front. And kind of like that white light, this one has a star.
You notice how his stick gets... Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Do you notice how his stick gets thicker as it gets down?
Oh, yeah. I wonder if maybe that's how they were. I like how it says CCM, though. I just noticed that. It says CCM on the stick. That's pretty cool. But I was gonna say, the white lights in that Bobby Orr. There's also this year, this Parker's had these stars in the background. There's this big blue star that his head kind of obscures, which I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. It doesn't like make me not want the card, but it's just kind of an odd place. But I don't know where you put the star. Like there's nowhere else for it to really go. But it's just something to be aware of. Card front looks super clean. Also, it's got great colors. Nice corner. The corners look really nice when you zoom in. You can see them if you're watching the video, or you can go to the PWCC site. It's off center from left to right a little bit, but nothing too terrible. Top to bottom looks really nice. There is a red box at the top right that has the card number, so it says it's 29. But that red box is kind of bleeds out of the black inside border. And if you look at the card, you'll see that. And I did look up a lot of copies of other cards, and that is pretty common, but there are some that had it almost dead on. So it's just something to be aware of. Back of the card looks good. I don't have a picture of that. And being a PSA 8, it's a high grade. There are only actually 2 copies with a higher grade, which I thought was a little interesting. They didn't call that out in the listing, but I went and found it. And so now a little bit about Kennedy, Hall of Famer, 5-time Cup winner, 1-time Hart winner, named to the 100 greatest NHL players list. Over a 14-season NHL career, 230 goals, 330 assists, 560 points, 696 games played. Nicknamed Teeter because Theodore was too hard to pronounce by his friends. And this sent me down a rabbit hole because I was like, I thought we've said that before. I went and searched every outline to see if Teeter or Ted Kennedy Ted Kennedy was in there because I was going to kick myself because I know it's going to happen someday. We're going to do the same card. We'll do a card we've already done in the past.
Oh yeah,
I know it's going to happen, and it's like I don't want to be the first one, but I couldn't.
People are going to think that we're pretending we're doing it for the first time, but in our mind, we'll really be doing it for the first time. Okay, now you get nicknamed Teeter, and it sticks. Are you okay with that? Does that make you sad or feel like?
Yeah, I don't know. They said it was like they said it was kind of a combination of his name. Theodore. I mean, I guess Teeter. Yeah, I guess it's kind of cool. It's unique. It's different. I don't know a lot of different Teeters, but yeah, I think I'm fine with it.
Okay.
All right. Last sale of a PSA 8 I could find was in 2020 for $212.50 US. Current bid is $210.
Okay, for the last vintage card, we're going all the way back to 1991. And I just had to pick out this card because in a weird way, I kind of like it. And it's just a little bit unique. It's the 1991 Pro Set Platinum. Dominik Hasek, rookie, PSA 10 pop 95. Out of 227 submitted, so that's a 42% gem rate. We have a top shelf Pro Set card here, Troy. Pro Set Platinum. As good as it gets in the Pro Set arsenal. Honestly, I'd seen these before, but I didn't know much about them. So I kind of wanted to take the opportunity through our segment here to learn more about the set and see if there's could this be a potentially unique and, I don't know, more valuable Hasek rookie than the typical junk wax era one? We will see. I think it's a cool card. It reminds me of kind of like of Stadium Club, where the card design is mainly a photo. And it really doesn't have that many design elements. It does have the sort of weird Prospect logo on the front where it says Prospect on the top, and then it looks like ancient Roman money underneath it. Like, I'm not really sure. It's like a little too intricate maybe for the photo there, but
That's a good point. I would have never thought of that. You know what my takeaway of this is, man, this would look good on a second string wallet. Like that's what popped into my head.
There we go. Love to hear that. Oh, Hasek would be amazing. We'll go crazy over that. There isn't even a Pro Set logo on the front of the card, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
See I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you like this card? Do you think it's cool?
I love it. Plus, I can tell, like, you look in the mask. I love he's got the mask on. Like, it's almost like a player mask, but you can tell he's a young pup in this picture. Like, I love the old gear, the Bryans. Look at all the straps on the back. Now goalie pads have like 3 or 4, maybe.
He's got like 45 minutes.
He's got like 15 straps on the back. And I guarantee you they were all leather. They got wet and they got heavy.
Yeah. So you'll be interested to learn that, Troy, that Hasek was a pretty good goalie. He played in 735 games, more than Bobby Orr. Think about that. In the NHL, going 389, 223, 82, and 13. So he's one of those goalies that spanned sort of the tie versus overtime loss era. So it has like the 4 metric win loss tie overtime loss record, which gets a little confusing. Career goals against of 2.2, which is nuts, and career save percentage of 0.922. Troy, he was a 6-time Vezina Trophy winner. He won the Hart Trophy, a goalie, twice.
Yeah.
2-time Stanley Cup champion. And so to answer my question, Troy, if this could maybe,
I already know the answer.
Is it conceivable that it's a more valuable junk wax rookie card? No. Last sale, 1991, Pro Set Platinum, Dominik Hasek, PSA 10 pop 95, was $40 on June 23rd. All-time high was 158 when somebody was high in the pandemic era in April of 2021. And I don't know, do we need to look at current bid? Is it like $3 or something like that?
No, it's $46 right now.
Wow. It's going to beat its last sale, so that's pretty impressive. Okay, we have 2 modern cards this week. I'm going to do the first one. Troy's going to do the second. First off, we have, which to me could be maybe the card of the PWCC auction, weekly auction this week. It's the 2019 The Cup Cale Makar update rookie patch auto out of 8 PSA 9. A beautiful looking card, Troy. Huge patch panel. Really is kind of the focal point of the card. 3-color patch with white, silver, and blue. Okay, so if I'm going to be like nitpicky here, if there'd be a little bit of the red in there, I think this card would be like off the charts amazing. Still pretty good. Very, very much like it. Auto looks really nice. And of course, the card is numbered 7 of 8. So just one off the jersey number. I think, too, for these thicker, exquisite cards, a PSA 9 is a really good grade.
Yes.
So I'd be very happy with the grade on this card. Makar is still only 24 years old, has played in 4 NHL seasons to date, winning 1 Norris Trophy and a Stanley Cup so far in his career. So in his career, he's played 238 regular season games, scored 65 goals, 181 assists for 246 points. So again, we're not a math show, Troy, but I think that's easily more than a point per game. It's actually 1.03 points per game. For context, Bobby Orr, who is oft compared to Cale Makar, averaged 1.39 points per game over his career and is the all-time leader in that category. Second would be all-time would be Paul Coffey at 1.09 points per game. And so I don't know if he has enough games, but Makar, if he continues his pace, would be third. And then looking at goals per game, to this point, Makar averages 0.27. All-time best was Oregon with 0.41. Then Denny Potvin at 0.29, followed by Coffey at 0.28. So Makar would be fourth there. Long story short, Troy, Makar has been very good to this point. Is in pretty good company so far with the number he's put up. To think, too, he's probably just entering his prime, and if he can avoid injuries, you think he's got a good shot just to keep getting better over the next few years. Only sale I could find of a 2019 The Cup Cale Makar Exquisite Collection RP out of 8 was the raw 8 out of 8, so the jersey number that sold for $3,655 US in May of 2021. You got the current bid?
$875 US.
There we go. And you got the last one in modern.
Yeah, I got the last one. Before we go to that, though, I just think it's crazy on this card how they had to try to put the whole name of the card in the slab. It's like UPD-19-20E.C.RK.AU.PAT. I think that's hilarious.
Now, do you want to tell the real story of the last card, Troy?
Oh,
do you want to go behind the curtain on the Gong Show here?
We're going to go behind the curtain. So here, we'll just bring it up. If
beautiful
you're on
card.
YouTube, beautiful card.
I actually really like this card. I'm crazy.
Great looking card. And I saw it and I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. Great card. This is the card I'm going to do. So I put it in our outline. I keep going. I'm like, I do my vintage stuff. I'm doing my write-up, kind of looking at it. Then I did this one. And I started doing my stuff, write it up and everything. And then I'm like, all right, done with that. So I started going through the outline. And for some stupid reason, I didn't go and look at Josh's second current card. And all of a sudden I see it. And I'm like, why did I type this out twice? Or why did I copy and paste it? I don't remember doing that. And then I look and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh my God, we did the same card. I didn't verify. He already had his stuff done on the research. And I just went ahead and did it too. Now, that's the first time we've done this.
We didn't know
we both picked the same card. It was pretty sad. I just put an angry note in the outline that I'm an idiot and I'm going to bed because it was like 2 a.m. when I figured that out. So I will do it real quick. I actually think you probably had a little more stats than I did because I didn't go into Lemieux because I basically said, we've talked about him enough. Go listen to episode 66. We do a whole rundown of him with the big jersey. However, this card that we both decided to do is a 2020 Upper Deck Clear Cut Mario Lemieux Auto. SGC 10 is the card grade, and it has an auto grade of 10. If you are looking again at the YouTube video, the card I think looks fantastic.
It's awesome.
Again, yeah, it looks great. It just looks awesome. And again, I'm not going to go into all the new stats, but I saw this card, and I'm for sure this happened to you too, Josh. You kind of saw it, and you're just like, wow. And like immediately jumped into it, started looking at the pictures of it. I love, he's got the penguins, like that classic old penguin on it, holding the hockey stick. Plus, he's got that Yofa helmet, which Gretzky had a Yofa, but Gretzky's was like smaller. Lemieux's looked like either he has a huge melon on it, but his Yofa helmet was always massive.
Or is it too big? Is his bucket too big for his head?
Yeah,
you don't know.
Flopping around. I don't think so, but it has a lot of. You can see actually on the card, there's a lot of padding in there. It's pretty thick padding. So
yeah. Well, he had Did he have concussion issues too? I know he had back and cancer issues.
Yeah, I don't remember concussions, but I'm sure all of those guys had concussions at some point. Yeah, the card. So again, the picture is great. It's a picture I don't remember seeing a lot. Maybe it's out there, but I don't remember seeing this one. Just dead on straight. I kind of like that you can see kind of a goalie arm in the background. Like, I really like it, like zoomed in. And plus, he's got one of the. I don't know how his signature says Mario Lemieux, but it's one of the coolest looking signatures ever. I love how. I mean, this must be the L, the E, and then some other stuff here, but it just looks great.
Maybe it says Art Vandelay. You never know.
Yeah, true. Again, SGC 10, auto grade of 10. You zoom in on the card, it looks fantastic. You can see why I got a 10.
It feels like SGC is like really tough graders because I feel like I see 9.5s a lot, but yeah. That's one of the things that kind of, as well as how cool the card looks, that pulled me in was that 10-10 grade.
Yeah. And I think you also mentioned too, like, or you got a question like on the slab. I think this card looks great in a SGC slab with the black and white or the tuxedo because it really matches the card. Like the card's black, yellow, white. I think it does and even the Penguin logo on the bottom, it's like black and white. I think it really matches and looks really nice in this holder. All right, I found, and you did too, so at least we both find the same sales. We found a raw sale of this card on March 26th of this year for $250 via eBay and verified in Terapeak. Current bid on this card right now is $135 US.
The only thing I would add to that, Troy, is that it's not a numbered card, but the box odds, because as we know, Clear Cut is a one card box, was 1 in 368 boxes.
Oh, wow.
Which was the toughest odds for any of the base legend autos. I went and did a little checklist research last night for this one.
Nice.
Okay. Well, that is our PWCC Weekly preview. Mm-hmm. We're going to jump over and just talk briefly about new product releases. There isn't a ton going on, and so I thought we'd use the opportunity to kind of see where we're at in the release calendar. We did chat last episode that there is a hockey-ish, I guess, related set coming out. I think on the 26th of the month, it's 2022 Metal Universe Champions. It does have the one hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, and unlicensed cards. But
we're really stretching that hockey-ish term.
Hockey-ish. If you want more information, we did a checklist breakdown on our last episode, Gongshow 100. Okay, so Troy, what's next, right? That's the $64,000 question. Or maybe what's next? A bunch of sets that are more likely to release. A better question. So I'm looking at the release calendar. I just used Dave and Adams. Right now, they're still showing 2021-22 credentials is August 2nd, which would be nice because I'm really looking forward to this set, and it would be amazing if that's next. If that's the case, we would expect to see a checklist, I would assume, in the next few days, probably, as we're getting, definitely by within the next week.
Mm-hmm.
We've also heard rumors that 2022-23 Black Diamond could be next, and that's showing as August 9th on the release calendar, so about 3 weeks from now. In addition, on August 9th is 2021-22 Premier, and 2023-24 MVP are all showing as August 9th. Right, so we're kind of getting back to this period now where we're going to have 3 different set years releasing, all sort of intermingling with each other at the same time. But I've heard Black Diamond. I don't know what it means that Credentials is still showing the 2nd. I would doubt that it's Premier, but I don't know, maybe though, because the one thing that you would think about and trying to read through the tea leaves here is that Upper Deck, I think, has tried to stagger the release years from consecutive releases. So the last release was 2022-23 Synergy. So I'm not sure that they would release another 2022 set at this point, but who knows? So You have 3 that have, or 1 credentials, August 2nd release, 3 sets, Black Diamond, premieres, and the new MVP, which would, gosh, can you think, Troy, we could be 3 weeks away or so from Connor Bedard redemptions already?
Yeah.
Kind of crazy what those would be going for.
Yeah.
But then if you even go beyond that, David Adams is still showing 4 other sets with August releases: 2021-22 Stature, 2021-22 Ultimate, 2022-23 Parker's Champions, which keeps getting pushed, it seems like, and then 2022-23 Metal Universe Hockey. We'll, of course, keep you posted as we get word from Upper Deck as to what's next. So, yeah, there's any one of 7 or 8 sets that could still come out in August. A lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is our show. Episode 101 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow is in the books. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show and want to support us, want to chat with us daily in the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of 99 support level tier on Patreon. The link is in the show description or YouTube description. There's a link to it on our website at hockeycardsgongshow.com, or you can go to Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's also a link in our link tree, which you can find in our Instagram profile and our TikTok profile as well. We are on social media, so you can follow Hockey Cards Gongshow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures LLC. Have an amazing rest of your week, a great weekend, and we will chat with you all on Monday.